Okay, we are going to start, everyone. Hello and good afternoon. I hope everyone had a really great lunch and you are ready for this spicy talk on smart, sexy, and sustainable. Can it be all three? I am Yelena Mogelefsky. I am SVP of Sourcing, Production, Product Development at KOMAR Brands, a wonderful family-owned intimate apparel, sleepwear, and so much more company. I spend my days at the intersection of design, supply chain, production, and sustainability. And I am excited to be leading this conversation today. The real question isn't whether we can make products that are sexy, smart, and sustainable, because I know every single one of us in this room can do that. It's whether we are willing to rethink how we design, source, measure, and really collaborate with each other. Sustainability in our industry is often framed as a trade-off. You don't see a lot of sexy apparel that's marketed as sustainable. It's more expensive and slower. This panel is here to challenge the idea of compromise. And I'd like to introduce my panelists. So first is Rasha Alomar.
Hi, I work for Grey Matter Concepts. We're a basics company based in New York City, woman-owned, medium-sized, privately owned. And I head up all of product development, innovation, raw materials, and sustainable product.
And next we have Andrea Kennedy.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Curve, for having us. My name's Andrea Kennedy. I'm currently the lead, or you could call me a chair, of Berkeley College's Fashion Merchandising and Management program, where sustainability and circularity and innovation is embedded in all our courses, and come from the sustainability space. Thanks.
Great. And now we have Alex Helander from BLUESIGN.
Good afternoon, everybody. My background is in production and supply chain for many years, and so I tend to take a look at sustainability from a practical standpoint. You know, what's happening on the factory floor, not on a slide sheet. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I do work for BLUESIGN. We help companies, brands, manufacturers, and chemical suppliers trace their chemical inputs.
Great. So we're going to get going. Sustainability is not a trend or a look. It's really an evolving mindset now. The goal is to integrate sustainability into everything that we do, everything the consumer touches. At KOMAR, we had to change our mindset. Okay, we had to change the way we cost. Our production team worked really closely with our merchandisers and our designers to just simply not cost conventional cotton anymore. When we get a product pack, we just don't even offer that as an option. Cotton is sustainable, and that's what we offer our customers. So the first question I have is, when sustainability is done right, should the consumer even notice it, or should it be invisible? Rasha?
So I think it depends on the DNA of the brand. So we have different brand identities. For example, with our outdoor brand, sustainability is very important. They look for recyclability, they look for care of the planet. But in some of our other brands, it's not a primary importance, so it's called out in a small way. It's part of our company DNA, and we do focus on those things. In addition, I think that it depends if you're talking product or factory sustainability. Factory sustainability isn't usually called out. It's just an incentive that the company has to do the right thing, and usually driven by our retailers that are demanding those things.
Andrea?
So the question is it,
Should sustainability be invisible to the consumer? Should we be screaming it always?
thank you. I don't think it should look any different, but it should feel different. It should feel different wearing a better fit garment that is made to last longer. It should feel different to wear a garment that launders better and doesn't pill, for instance, right? Because it's made with higher quality fibers. And, you know, it's not unraveling. So, and it lasts longer. So I do feel that it should feel emotionally and physically different, but we can't have it look different, because that's when the barriers come.
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I'll add that
I think you mentioned this in the kickoff. Sustainability shouldn't be a trade-off. It shouldn't be a compromise for the consumer. It is today, but that's not really where we should be going. It shouldn't be, a trade-off between performance or comfort or even sexiness, if you will, versus being responsible. When it's done right, it is integrated, it's seamless, and the further upstream that you can embed that into your product, the easier it is and the clearer it is. So hopefully what we're really getting to is that seamlessness where you're not paying a green tax, if you will, whether the supply chain is meeting a demand that is exceeding it. That would be even better.
Great. I definitely believe that responsible supply chain really spans product, it spans corporate, it spans employees, and it's not just materials. You can't have sustainable materials without sustainable practices. I truly believe that. You need collaboration, you need accountability, and now we need traceability. So my next question is, where does sustainability actually live inside of an organization? We have so many silo departments: production, design, materials. Where do you feel that sustainability lives in order to really achieve circularity and sustainability goals? I'm going to actually start this way and start with Alex.
Thanks. I would say that sustainability does not live in a department. It doesn't live in a team. It lives in the decisions. And those decisions are, if you think about it, those decisions are in the handoffs, right? The handoffs of raw materials to product development, from product development to design to production. But it also exists in the handoffs between merchandising and planning, because they have to be actively engaged in that effort to bring sustainability to the market for a brand or for a manufacturer or even for a chemical supplier. And so it's the decision making. I think what we've seen in the last decade or so are departments of sustainability. And that's a tough task for those departments to carry the load. Not only do they have to sell it to their own constituents inside of the company, which oftentimes I think is the hardest thing, because there's always that cost chasm, if you will. But they also have to sell it to the consumers. And so I don't like the fact that it lives inside of just one thing. It really is about living inside of the decisions. The second thing is, if you think about circularity, that's a system of compromises and sharing, and nobody controls. Here's a case where nobody controls materials, nobody controls chemicals, because they don't control the product life cycle, and they certainly don't control the end of life cycle. These garments are around much longer than we are at companies in many cases, and if we can't control that, then the best that we can do is about sharing, transparency, and clarity of purpose.
Thank you. Andrea, what do you think?
Right. I mean, siloed thinking is what put us in this place in the present where we're having all of these issues to solve. It does have to include everyone. And, there are sustainability departments, though. You're ahead of sustainability, right? So it does involve really cheerleading and educating everyone in every department. I'm going to quickly say something. I was on vacation a couple years ago, and there was checked into the hotel, and there was a sign like, turn off the tap, and they literally told us to make sure as we were checking in to a really nice hotel that we would turn off the tap. You get in there, they turn off the tap. We went to a restaurant not even close to that, and I go to the ladies' room, it says turn off the tap. And I'm like, wow, this is funny. So I started looking it up. Turn off the tap was like a municipal initiative that every business had signed off on. So you were getting the reminder, and all of a sudden I was like telling people to turn off the tap. Like, so if you involve everybody and make it exciting and even give it a catchy name, I think then that does help in the storytelling.
I love that.
So, I mean, I don't know if I answered your question, but
Definitely.
I feel like whether it's across an apparel company, a textile company, a facility, or a college, right? You do have to get everyone involved so they understand and you're working towards mutual accountability and a mutual why.
I love that. Rasha, what do you think?
So I think that in my opinion, sustainability, the heart of it is at the spine of it is in the R&D department, because they connect the dots. So they have relationships with the fiber companies, the chemical companies, they have relationship with the mills, the factories, and then they connect the dots between the costing and the sourcing department, where it's coming from, what it's costing out like, to the designers and their aesthetic, what they're trying to achieve. In addition to that, they are able to present concepts that are aligned with that brand identity and offer it as an option, which is something that doesn't usually happen outside, because they can bring it to reality, they can make it real. A designer often has an idea, but whether it's scalable or it will cost, or if it's really feasible, or we can get it from our factories, doesn't always align. So to me, the R&D department aligns everything so that it actually works. They also are able to tell the story. In reference to factory sustainability, that's usually through the compliance department, and it just follows like regulatory standards and what our retailers are expecting. We expect full transparency from our factories.
Thank you. So I'm going to go and now have single panelist questions. And the first one is for you, Andrea. KOMAR recently joined Canopy to help protect forests and promote responsible material sourcing and packaging. How essential are external partnerships in moving sustainability from concept to measurable results?
Yeah, well, together we can go far, right? So
I like that.
love Canopy, love BLUESIGN, Cascal, Hig, Worldly, etc. I mean, we can't do it alone. We can only stay in our lane. And especially where now that so many brands are starting these take-back initiatives, there's all of these new problems that we've been working on, where once you take it back, you do need a partner to sort and clean and launder that, right? You do need a partner for the reselling piece. You do need a partner for the repair piece. You need a partner for the recycling and the downcycling piece. So you need different partners to do all of that. And there are so many great ones right now that have, particularly, some of them have been here all along and some of them have popped up more. So we can't do it together. And I think that is, I mean, I'm glad about that, right? When I came into the industry, you never shared your contacts. Your
Right.
Rolodex went with you, like wherever you went. Like,
Very secretive.
Right.
Very secretive.
I came from Rolodex and Filofax times. So, and now, right, that is changing for the most part. And I think that that's really good, that we are sharing sources. And whether it's even collaborative procurement and you are buying something together that is more sustainable and more expensive to meet those minimums. So I think partnerships really are the only solution.
Great. So we've had great success with our already existing factory base at KOMAR. When KOMAR put out their mission to be one of the most sustainable companies in the world by 2030, that was a big mission statement. And we built a team, and what we found was great success with our already existing factory base with education, boots on the ground, okay? Production teams that have great relationships with their factories that we just explain to them, real communication of what we're doing, why we're doing it. And we were able to bring teams in for webinars, for trainings, to explain why these questionnaires have to be filled out and the importance of them. So that's how we found success. My question to Alex is, how do you incentivize suppliers to innovate with you, especially on things like water use, waste reduction, chemical management, or carbon reduction?
Wow, that's a lot.
You can pick one.
Fundamentally, the success that we see across the supply chain when we're working with manufacturers is really grounded in how are they made to feel by the brands? Meaning, is there a long-term strategy? Any supplier you talk to will engage, invest, and build what you ask them to do if they're given a strategy a long-term plan, and there's clarity of purpose in that. It's when there isn't that the resistance is met. You know, to just have a compliance or a certification falls flat unless it's anchored in some kind of long-term vision. And so when we see the success, whether that's from the supplier side or the brand, they share that same value, and that is a long-term vision. On the brand side, it's transparency. The best cases, I'll say, are areas of long-term planning, so that both sides know exactly what's going to be in place for a period of time. Brands prioritizing their supply chain, maybe even reducing it just to work with better suppliers, and dedicating themselves to that. And then maybe adding to that, treating, probably just as equally valuable, treating their suppliers as trusted partners, not just a vendor. So that's really the incentive right there. When you're asked to do something and you don't know for how long you're going to be doing that thing, a la certification, a la CapEx investment into your business and your systems, who wants to invest in that? You know, who wants to get started with that? So it's really important to have those long-term goals shared, transparent, and clear from the start, whether that's the supply side or whether that's coming from the brand or working back towards the brand.
Thank you. Rasha, can sustainability exist at an opening price point, and what does it actually take to make it scalable for the mass market?
So that's what we specialize in at GMC. We're an opening price point company. And yes, it absolutely can exist. You have to have really good relationships with your fiber, chemical companies, mills, and factories. You have to be able to connect the dots. You have to be able to engineer the fabric to bring your prices down to where they are. There's a lot of shifting in regions and altering construction, but 100%, like we've got a bunch of sustainable initiatives. We 80% of our product is recycled. Actually, recycled cotton is cheaper than virgin cotton, but it has limitations. So that's a sustainable initiative that's cheaper. BCI is a wash. Like there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity. There's if as it gets more popular, the more opportunities are coming up.
Yeah, that are cost neutral, and I think that's what everybody is looking for. What are those opportunities out there that we can make these changes like we did to BCI
Exactly.
and organic without any cost increases? You know, having our factories become more sustainable without high cost, you know, associated with it. That's really important. So, how do designers protect creativity while meeting sustainability goals? Can sexy and sustainable really coexist? Rasha.
So in our company, the initiative of sustainable goals or innovation actually is a value add to the designers. So we look at the identity of that brand and what it needs. For example, we developed a scrubs. I know it's not an intimates line, but I have to give you these examples. We developed a scrubs line. We found an antimicrobial that is already being used in catheters at hospitals. It doesn't affect the biome of the skin, so it's healthier for the user. So it made the story complete. So now they're not just coming with any scrubs line, they're coming with a story. And that's the same with our for example, our outdoor brand. We developed abrasion resistance technology that exceeded the length of the garment by 5 times. That's a whole story. It also had a very masculine name, and it was a man's brand, so it just worked. And like I said, with our outdoor outdoor stories, we do the recycled because they care about the planet. So every initiative we take, the story aligns with that brand DNA and brand identity and elevates the designer's initiative. A lot of time the designs are fairly basic, actually. There's not a lot of differences. So the storytelling becomes very important. We train our salespeople to tell those stories. We train our designers to tell those stories. And we create a whole capsule.
Great. Andrea, do you think sexy and sustainable can coexist?
I do. And can I just answer the question about the designer part too? So At my previous company, I worked with several large global retail brands, and one of them we did a project where we added sustainability to their tech packs. And so their designers are already working within specifications, right? I mean, so it's a specification driven, problem solving driven category. So if you add just more guidelines like that, it's just what they're used to. They already are working within a lead time, within a cost, within color, all of these factors. So adding that helped in terms of, I can't tell too much because we have an NDA, but it really did help. So in terms of that, but yes, I do think sexy and sustainability can coexist because I think feeling good is sexy, right? And when you use better
Absolutely.
fabric, you might feel comfy, you might feel warm, you might feel slinky and sexy, whatever it is. So, and better fibers feel better on the body, right? And
They do.
and they last longer. So at Berkeley, we teach, and I'm sure you do in your classes, since we both teach circularity, we teach different strategies, and one of them is design for longevity. And there's physical longevity, which is like more stitches per inch and not serging your seams and whatnot. And then there is environmental longevity, which is, doing those material footprints and seeing, how much water and whatnot and working towards reduction there. But then there is also that designing for emotional longevity and emotional durability. And that's where the sexy can coexist because it feels good.
It does. It does. So if you could wave a magic wand and solve one sustainability challenge tomorrow, what would it be and why? And I'll jump in and go first, because for me, it would be complete oversampling. Okay? I believe that it's not even the samples, it's the samples that come in due to miscommunication. Because the tech pack wasn't right, or the factory didn't follow it, and all of that back and forth. And then the sample got here, we can't even fit it because it wasn't made in the right fabric, or the stretch wasn't right. That to me is an issue, a problem in our industry that I hope one day 3D will solve, or at least help push that to a more sustainable practice of samples that are usable. When they come in, you know that we're going to fit them, we're going to use them, we're going to give you an approval on them. So, Alex, to you, what would be your sustainability challenge if you had a magic wand?
Can I just say that, did everybody notice that I didn't get asked the sexy question? Like, really? I mean, sustainability? Who wants to talk about sustainability? It's like, if that was a drinking game, I think we'd all be under the table by now. Like, who wants to talk about that? But I didn't get the sexy question, so all right, we'll talk about it afterwards. I would fix the system, not the symptom. Focus on the system, not the symptom. And by that, especially with the work I do or we do at BLUESIGN, it's about tracing it as far back as you can upstream in your supply chain. If you think about the products that we're all here for this specific show, this is not product that you wear over other product. This is not a raincoat. There's no underlayer for the underlayer that you're wearing, right? Okay, maybe some of you are wearing multiple layers of innerwear, but this is the stuff that touches your skin. This is the stuff that really touches your skin. And so, thinking about what goes into that product as your largest organ, it's sitting on it. And that's really important. And so for me, I would just answer the question, go as far upstream as you can, take a look at the system, because if it's clean inputs going in, truthfully, everything coming out at the back end, you shouldn't even have to worry about it.
I like that. Thank you. Andrea, what do you think?
And there can only be one.
One.
So many to
one magic wand. It's only one wish.
Yeah, I mean, I think If there can only be one, I really like what you said because I'm thinking of all the headers that are being donated right now. We have
Yes.
4 classrooms filled with headers because
Right.
everyone's donating them. But I guess it's perception of cost, that sustainability costs too much. And because companies aren't necessarily loading it onto their tech packet on their cost sheets, or not all, are doing so, that there is that resistance due to that. When I started sourcing, because I come from responsible sourcing first and foremost in design, but when I first started sourcing organic and recycled options, they were almost double the price, right?
Yeah, I remember.
And now they're what, 10% more, 15% more, huh?
And some are just cost neutral.
So yes. So I mean, but still there's that thinking that it costs more still today, right? And you can take some things out to offset that increase. So I think that just more educating more people around that and showing them that there are more options that can make this cost the same to the customer.
That it can be done. I like that. Rasha, what's your magic wish?
Mine, I don't know if it's even possible, but I wish they'd shift from a moral to an economic advantage through incentives or rewards for good behavior. Then we're not trying to convince anyone. They're already convinced. They're just going to do something, right? So that's what my wish is.
So looking towards 2030, what's one KPI you hope the whole industry will be reporting on? Not because regulations require it, but because it reflects real progress. I'll start with you, Rasha.
Okay. So what I noticed is a lot of public companies report their sustainable results. But what I would like to see is more public companies give full transparency on how they got to those results so that other people can duplicate that method and benefit from it. So it's a whole global initiative rather than them keeping it close to their chest.
I like that. I like that.
Tell them what to do, tell them how to do it.
Right, I like
Right.
that.
I love that.
Andrea, what about you?
Environmental profit and loss. I feel that not, success and profit, not just by your cost sheet and your income statement, by an environmental profit and loss, and really looking at what you're doing to decrease eutrophication, pollution, emissions, et cetera, across your supply chain.
Good one. What about you, Alex?
I would focus on impact. So we're an industry that talks a lot about, look what I did, 10 water bottles into a shirt, like what does that really mean? Regenerative cotton, recycle this, recycle that. But that's just a number at the end of what you did. What the impact would show is, what does it mean? And we don't focus enough, I don't think, in the industry on the impact. What does that mean? If you were a hurdler on a track team and you were just measured by how fast you got to the finish line, you'd never be able to measure your improvement. You just constantly try to beat the last time. You wouldn't focus on your steps, you wouldn't focus on the jump, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're measuring your results, you really have to show the impact. And it's the only way to progress and do better. Because if you just focus on the end result, you wouldn't know that you could do better, right?
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I would want the industry to track how often we overbuy fabric just to hit a minimum. Because that's where a lot of hidden waste is. We're buying fabric, then we need to you're buying more fabric than we need, or we buy more product than we need. The two, especially in intimate apparel, just do not align. And for me, that is just such an industry, we need an industry fix. We either have all this fabric left over or we're selling off, product. And that would be my one KPI that we have to report on. Nice. So I want to thank you guys, and now I want to ask the audience if there are any questions. Unless the panel wants to add anything else. But I think we did answer that we can't have all three. You can be sexy, you can be smart, and we can be sustainable. Yes, Tina.
So, I don't know who's in the audience, but there are big companies, there are small companies, there are tiny little If you're a tiny little company and you want to make an impact and start, on the road to sustainability, how do you start small?
I'll take that one. It doesn't matter if you're small or you're super large conglomerate. There's no silver bullet, but there is impact by starting. And so that sounds very simplistic to say, but you know what? Just because you're small doesn't mean you can't do something. And I think this idea that it's the old, when I have time, I will then start. When I have more money, I will do. No, you don't need to wait for that day. Everybody can just get started on an initiative, something in their office, in their bedroom, or in their multi-location headquarters. That would be my answer.
Can I just say that a lot of people have already, because it's such a talking point and everybody's invested, this is the best time to try to tap into your supply chain and see what they're already doing and maximize the buy on what they're already doing. Then they're going to make more of that and it's going to have an impact.
And using dead stock, right? I mean, there is so much fabric already made where you can buy 1 or 2 bolts of really beautiful fabric and make small batches for small brands. And then also, I love Worldly's Pig MSI. You can use that for free. It's open source for up to 3 materials, but you can just keep changing those materials. And it's gotten so granular now, you can even add the region where the fiber is grown, the mileage, the whether it's floating or flying from place to place, and help you really, if you are ordering new, then compare and contrast what you have to your potential future fabrics to keep those. Because I do think it's important to think about environmental impacts as well. But there's just so much dead stock all over New York City, for instance.
Dead stock. You don't know what you're really getting.
Right.
But you're not using virgin materials to produce new. But you're right that you don't know if it has any inherited certifications or whatnot.
And be an issue. One of the things that I found in the US is you're out suppliers and sell them. I've seen like billions of dollars as minimums. They are under a much harsher limelight of what they have to do. So just said, making sure it includes the money. We follow you, we follow your
Let me also add to what I said earlier. So the rebuttal, the question here was, you don't always know what you're getting when you're buying dead stock, which is true. Just a plug, very quick, but if you go to our website, BLUESIGN.com, we provide every single system partner that we have out there around the world or global. We have almost 1,000 of those system partners. So if you're looking for fabrics or fabric companies, anybody that pops up on that finder, and you can sort it by knit, by chemical, by manufacturer, whatever you want to do, you can start there. Now that's at scale. You're right. You're not buying dead stock and 1 bolt at a time, but there is a pathway for visibility to buy something that's better.
And a lot of dead stock does have that information on it, launderability information and whatnot. So you do have some decision making.
David?
So, thanks. A lot of good talk about sustainability and impact. I want to know what your thoughts are about carbon counting. I spent a year in an IT company, and it was all about carbon counting. They never asked me for my equipment back. They don't do a lot of things, but yet they count their carbon footprint. They count their carbon footprint everywhere products are, and they weren't even making anything. They were just reselling. So in the scope of all this, since carbon counting seems to have such a high priority, I always question that. So what are your thoughts on it?
So carbon counting and specifically, what was the second part of that question?
What are your thoughts about carbon counting? I was just adding that I worked for a company that was all about carbon counting, but yet their practices were completely opposite of what they were.
I think at the worst case, carbon counting is like snack wells. You know, Snackwell's a cookies, like they got nothing in them, so you can eat the whole box and feel good about it. And so the incentive there is like, wow, they got nothing in it, so I'm going to collect them and eat them and enjoy it and never gain any weight. And so on the worst part, the industry collects this carbon, but then generates more by buying more so that they can trade off, and they feel like no harm, no foul, right? I just generated more waste, but I planted, X amount of trees, so I'm good. That's the worst part of it. The good part of it is, again, everything we're talking about today is a pathway towards getting better. If we took this videotape and we all watched it 20 years ago, we'd probably be looking at all of us and all of you like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, sustainable what? So we've made progress, even though in the moment it feels glacial and slow and like nothing's happening on the worst case days. So carbon counting is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. It's at least it's a trackable measurement that gets us towards things. It's an IT company. Presumably they're using a lot of energy, and for them, super important that they were doing that and figuring out ways that they could offset that. Nefariously, magnanimously, whatever the reasons were for it, right?
Thank you. Go ahead.
I mean, I think that if you're randomly choosing like where this tree is going to be planted, it's maybe fun, but I think it's really meaningful when brands partner with these companies and select somewhere along their supply chain that does give work to local people. I mean, these trees aren't going to be capturing carbon for like 30 or 40 years, right? So, I mean, that isn't, but if you are helping the biomimetic system in that region, and it's the region that you're doing your supply chain, I too agree that I think it's positive.
I'm not sure what company you're talking about that's carbon counting and not doing much, David. Because I'm just, that's unusual. People are usually afraid of that because they don't want to be caught in that greenwashing space, you know? But what my experience is, our factories have full transparency. They show us they have improvement plans. We've reduced our wastewater. We recycle all our water. We're opening up a factory in Tirupur actually, and it's all made with has to be all the materials. Most of them are recycled, and they have to be sourced about 100 kilometers away from the village to support the community there. We're using solar panels.
Amazing.
We're using like fully circular water. We have a proper waste disposal. So we count that, but I don't know what company you're talking. That's a scary company. I don't know. Because usually there is something to back up those type of claims. You're not just, they may not be, I know that carbon counting there's so many different methods and it's criticized, etc. But there is usually something to back up what you're saying.
Like they were selling, but they weren't practicing it within the company. That was a real.
So the product, but not the factories, is that what you mean?
They were factories, they were just resellers, warehouses. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, there's like, yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying. So yes, there's different levels of sustainability, right? So they're only focused on the product. Yeah. Okay, that's a problem. And no, not sexy at all.
Not sexy. Not dirty.
Okay, well, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, come find us during the show. Thank you.